This episode is presented to you in the form of a visual audiobook. Have you ever felt a quiet pull, like an unseen hand gently tugging at your soul, urging you to seek something deeper, something more ancient, something that has shaped the very foundations of human thought and civilization? What if I told you that the answers you seek about yourself, the world, and your place in it are already embedded in the wisdom of an ancient civilization? A wisdom so profound, it continues to reverberate through time, silently guiding those who know how to listen. This is the hidden power of ancient Egyptian wisdom, an untapped reservoir that can illuminate your path, offering not just knowledge, but a deeper understanding of life itself. Today, we are about to embark on a journey to uncover this wisdom and see how it might hold the key to unlocking a life of purpose, balance, and power. Are you ready? Because what you are about to discover might just change the way you view the world forever. Let's start with something simple, yet profound. The Egyptians didn't just build grand pyramids or carve intricate hieroglyphs into stone. They cultivated an understanding of the universe that was deeply connected to the natural rhythms of life, the rise and fall of the Nile, the cycle of the seasons, the alignment of the stars. Their wisdom was not just philosophical, it was practical. For the Egyptians, the key to a harmonious life lay in the concept of ma'at, balance, order, and truth. Ma'at wasn't just a moral code. It was the very force that held the universe together. Everything, from the stars in the sky to the smallest grain of sand, was bound by this invisible thread of order. And yet, you might wonder, how can something so ancient and far removed from our modern lives still hold relevance today? How can these age-old ideas translate into our fast-paced, often chaotic world? The answer lies in the timeless nature of balance. Even today, in our quest for happiness, success, and fulfillment, we search for a sense of balance. What the Egyptians understood was that balance is not a destination, but a journey. And every step we take toward harmony with ourselves and the world around us is an echo of their wisdom. But here's the twist. Modern science has begun to validate many of these ancient ideas. Psychologists and neuroscientists are now studying the power of balance and mindfulness, proving that living in alignment with natural rhythms can improve mental health, foster creativity, and even enhance physical well-being. Let's pause here for a moment. Imagine you're standing by the banks of the Nile, watching the golden sun set. The air is cool, the sky painted in hues of purple and orange. In this stillness, something stirs within you. It's the understanding that you are part of something much larger, something eternal. This sense of interconnectedness is what the Egyptians knew deeply. They saw themselves not as isolated beings, but as part of the vast, intricate web of existence. The same web that connected the stars above with the earth beneath their feet. The same web that connected their hearts with the rhythms of the natural world. The concept of interconnectedness is not new to us. Today, we speak of it in terms of ecology, spirituality, or even quantum physics. The ancient Egyptians, however, were among the first to embody this idea in their daily lives. To them, everything, from the air they breathed to the food they ate, the people they loved to the work they did, was interwoven in a delicate dance. But here's the beauty of it. You don't have to travel to the banks of the Nile or gaze upon the pyramids to tap into this wisdom. It lives within you, in the way you connect with your surroundings, with nature, and with yourself. Just as the ancient Egyptians did, you too can unlock the transformative power of interconnectedness. And in doing so, you may begin to experience the profound peace and clarity that comes from knowing you are not separate from the world around you, but an essential part of it. So, let's talk about a deeper layer of this wisdom. The Egyptians also believed in the idea of the Ka, a vital force, a spiritual double that resides within every person. Think of it like your energy, your essence, the spark that gives life to your body and mind. The Ka was considered the blueprint of your potential, your innermost self, that could shape your destiny. It wasn't just about physical strength or wealth. It was about aligning your spirit with your purpose. When your Ka was balanced, you were in tune with your true self, your highest calling. But much like us, the Egyptians weren't always in tune. They faced conflicts, struggles, and distractions just as we do today. They believed that in order to nurture the ka, you had to live in accordance with might, truth, justice, and balance. When you lived in this way, your energy was aligned with your purpose, and life flowed effortlessly. But when you lost sight of Ma'at, when you lived out of alignment, your ka became restless. You felt drained, disconnected, and lost. Does that sound familiar? We all know what it feels like to be out of sync, to feel scattered or out of place. The key, then, is finding our way back to that deep, spiritual alignment, the same way the ancient Egyptians did. The path to rediscovering our ka, our inner essence, doesn't always come easily. It requires us to confront the shadows within ourselves, those parts of us that are hidden or ignored. The Egyptians believed that true wisdom came not from avoiding the darkness, but from embracing it. This leads us to a crucial concept in Egyptian thought, the journey through the underworld, known as the Duat. In Egyptian mythology, the Duat was a realm of trials and transformation, a place where the soul would journey after death, to be tested before reaching the afterlife. But the Duat wasn't just a place of death. It was symbolic of our inner struggles, the trials of the human spirit. And here's the intriguing part. This journey was not something that could be bypassed. In order to achieve spiritual enlightenment, one had to face the challenges that the Duat represented. It was a necessary process, one that led to the ultimate transformation. The Egyptians understood that we must confront our fears, our doubts, our weaknesses, in order to transcend them and emerge stronger, wiser, and more connected to our true selves. Think about it for a moment. In our lives today, we all go through our own versions of the Duat. It's not always easy, but it's through these challenges that we learn and grow. Whether it's overcoming a personal obstacle, navigating a difficult relationship, or facing the unknown, it's through the struggle that we find our way toward wisdom. Therefore, embracing our own personal Duat might not only be inevitable, it could be the very key to unlocking our greatest potential. And yet, transformation isn't just about personal trials. It's also about the collective wisdom of humanity. The Egyptians believed that the soul was not merely an individual entity, but a part of a larger collective consciousness. The Aku, the blessed ancestors, were believed to be ever-present, guiding, protecting, and offering their wisdom to the living. This idea of an interconnected, collective consciousness is powerful. It suggests that the wisdom of the past doesn't just fade away, it continues to influence us, if only we open ourselves to it. The Aku were not separate from the living, they were part of the same spiritual continuum. In today's world, we might not literally commune with our ancestors, but we still carry their wisdom in our blood. Every experience, every lesson passed down through generations, forms a part of who we are. From the teachings of our parents to the stories shared by friends, we inherit insights, values, and knowledge that have stood the test of time. And perhaps, just as the Egyptians saw their ancestors as guides, we too can tap into this universal wisdom. By looking to the past, whether through history, spiritual teachings, or even the experiences of those who came before us, we can find direction and meaning in our own lives. But remember, the wisdom of the past is only helpful if we choose to listen and apply it. Just as the Egyptians studied the stars and the natural world to align themselves with the universe, we must also make a conscious effort to align with the wisdom that surrounds us. As we begin to embrace this wisdom, we come across an important question. How do we live it? The Egyptians understood that wisdom wasn't something that was merely acquired, it was something that had to be embodied. They did not see knowledge as an abstract concept to be stored in books, but as a living force that should manifest through action. One of the most famous texts from ancient Egypt is the Instruction of Ptahhotep, a series of wise teachings passed down through generations. It is a guide to living a good life, one of humility, fairness, and balance. These teachings encourage us to be patient, to be kind, to avoid excess, and to treat others with respect. In our fast-paced, often materialistic world, these ancient principles might seem simple, even outdated. But in truth, they are more relevant than ever. Consider the power of patience in today's world of instant gratification. Think about the need for humility when social media constantly pressures us to compare ourselves to others. The ancient Egyptians weren't offering rules to follow, but principles that help us become better versions of ourselves. What is fascinating is that modern science and psychology often validate the teachings found in texts like the Instruction of Tauhotep. Studies on emotional intelligence, the power of mindfulness, and the importance of empathy all point to the same principles that the Egyptians held sacred. At the heart of all these teachings lies a powerful message. Wisdom is not just knowledge, it's the ability to live in harmony with oneself, others, and the world. The Egyptians weren't just philosophers in the traditional sense. They were spiritual architects, carefully crafting a way of life that integrated the spiritual, emotional, and practical aspects of human existence. But what happens when we ignore this integration? What happens when we live out of balance, disconnected from our spiritual essence and the world around us? The Egyptians had a clear answer to this. They believed that when a person lost connection with their Ka, when they strayed from the path of Ma'at, they would fall into a state of chaos. This chaos wasn't just external, it was internal. The soul would become lost, disconnected from its true purpose, and the consequences of this disconnection would ripple through every aspect of life. In our own modern lives, we can see this chaos manifesting in many ways. Burnout, stress, a sense of emptiness, and the feeling of living in a world that is out of control. But it doesn't have to be this way. By returning to the teachings of the ancient Egyptians, by seeking balance, harmony, and spiritual alignment, we can find our way back to peace, purpose, and fulfillment. We've explored the wisdom of the Egyptians, touched upon the balance they sought through Ma'at, the vitality of the Ka, and the transformative power of facing our inner Duat. But now, let's consider something perhaps even more profound: the way the ancient Egyptians approached the mystery of the divine. The Egyptians believed that the divine was not something distant or removed, but something immanent, woven into the very fabric of existence. Their gods weren't just abstract beings to be worshipped from afar. They were representations of forces and energies that were present in every moment, in every interaction, and in every breath. Take the god Ra, for instance, the sun god and symbol of creation and rebirth. Ra was not simply a god in the sky. He was the life force that powered all living things. In the rising and setting of the sun, Egyptians saw the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth, a cycle that was reflected in everything around them. Ra was their reminder that the divine could be seen in the most mundane acts of daily life, if only one had the eyes to see it. And this is where we can draw a beautiful parallel to our own lives. Just as Ra's light illuminated the world, the divine spark within each of us calls us to awaken, to illuminate our own lives with purpose, meaning, and connection. But here's the thing: we live in a time when the divine is often relegated to the background, obscured by the noise of our modern existence. It's easy to forget that the divine can be seen in the ordinary, the way the wind moves through the trees, the laughter of friends, the quiet moments of reflection. However, just like the Egyptians, we too can awaken to this presence, to the divine that flows through all things, if we are willing to open our hearts and minds. This brings us to one of the most central, and yet often overlooked elements of ancient Egyptian wisdom: the concept of living in alignment with the cycles of nature. For the Egyptians, the natural world was not just a backdrop for life, it was the very source of their understanding of life itself. The Nile River, with its annual flooding, was a sacred event in Egypt. It wasn't just a natural occurrence, it was a gift, a renewal. This flood brought rich soil to the land, enabling crops to grow and sustain life. In many ways, the flooding of the Nile was seen as a cosmic reset, a symbol of regeneration and fertility. In our own lives, we too experience cycles, times of abundance and times of scarcity, moments of creation and moments of destruction. The challenge is not to fight these cycles, but to align with them. Just as the ancient Egyptians saw the flooding of the Nile as a sacred rhythm, we too can learn to embrace the natural rhythms of our lives, the ebbs and flows of energy, inspiration, and rest. And this is where ancient wisdom meets modern science. Research in biology and neuroscience shows that our bodies, minds, and even emotions operate in cycles. The more we learn to work with these natural rhythms rather than against them, the healthier and more balanced we become. This is the core of what the Egyptians understood. To live in harmony with the cycles of nature is to live in harmony with oneself. Now, let's pause to reflect on something even deeper. The ancient Egyptians didn't see the body and mind as separate entities. For them, the physical and spiritual worlds were intricately linked. The body was considered a vessel for the soul, a sacred temple that needed to be honored, cared for, and respected. In their pursuit of wisdom, they developed practices to cultivate both physical and spiritual well-being. From the meticulous care they took in mummification to their advanced knowledge of medicine, they understood the importance of maintaining a harmonious balance between the body, mind, and spirit. This holistic approach to health and wellness is something we are now rediscovering in modern times. Practices like yoga, meditation, and holistic nutrition are all attempts to restore the connection between our body, mind, and spirit. But the Egyptians were centuries ahead of us, recognizing that true well-being comes when we nurture all aspects of our being, physical, mental, and spiritual. Imagine for a moment how our lives might transform if we treated our bodies as sacred temples, if we gave ourselves the same respect and care that the Egyptians gave to their most revered possessions. What if, instead of neglecting our health or pushing our bodies beyond their limits, we treated them with reverence and kindness? What if we understood that the health of our bodies directly affects the health of our spirits? The truth is, the Egyptians knew that we cannot truly separate the body from the soul. And in learning to care for both, we unlock a deeper level of power and wisdom within ourselves. This brings us to another striking aspect of Egyptian wisdom: the power of intention. The Egyptians believed that the mind had the ability to shape reality, and that through intention, one could align themselves with the forces of the universe. Take, for example, the ancient Egyptian practice of prayer and rituals. These were not just ceremonial acts, they were deeply rooted in the belief that the spoken word held power. Words, for the Egyptians, were not merely symbols, they were living forces that could shape the world. In our modern world, this is similar to the concept of manifestation, using focused intention to bring about change in our lives. Scientific research in the field of psychology has shown that our thoughts and intentions do, indeed, shape our experiences. The act of focusing on positive, empowering thoughts can influence our actions, which in turn creates a ripple effect in the world around us. But this isn't magic. It's a principle rooted in deep psychology and ancient wisdom alike. When we speak with intention, when we set clear goals and focus our energies on them, we are aligning ourselves with the natural forces of the universe, just as the Egyptians did. Therefore, the ancient wisdom of intention teaches us that our thoughts are not passive. They are powerful agents of change. And when we use them consciously, with awareness, we unlock the ability to shape our world from the inside out. We've now explored how ancient Egyptian wisdom offers us a profound path to balance, purpose, and alignment with both the natural world and our deeper selves. But there's still one final piece to this puzzle, something that ties everything together: the role of mystery and the unknown. The Egyptians were masters of the mystical, and they didn't see mystery as something to fear. To them, mystery was a part of life's natural rhythm, something to be embraced rather than avoided. The mysteries of the afterlife, the secrets of the universe, the hidden knowledge of the gods, these were all aspects of life that the Egyptians honored. They understood that not everything in life can be explained, controlled, or even fully understood. And in that understanding, they found peace. This willingness to embrace the unknown is something we too can learn from. In today's world, we are conditioned to find answers quickly, to solve every problem with logic and reason. But often, the most profound answers come not from thinking harder, but from sitting in the stillness of the unknown. When we open ourselves to mystery, we allow ourselves the space to grow, to learn, and to evolve. Just as the Egyptians revered the mysteries of the universe, we too can cultivate a sense of wonder and awe toward the unknown aspects of our lives. By doing so, we free ourselves from the need for constant control and certainty. We allow room for discovery, for growth, and for transformation. And in embracing this mystery, we may find the most important wisdom of all, that the answers we seek are not always found in logic, but in the quiet, receptive spaces of our hearts. But perhaps the most extraordinary aspect of Egyptian wisdom is that it teaches us not only how to live, but how to die. In their worldview, death was not an end, but a transition. The Egyptians saw death as another part of the grand cycle of life, just as the Nile flooded and receded, and the sun rose and set. For the Egyptians, the afterlife was not something to fear, it was something to prepare for. Through elaborate rituals, offerings, and prayers, they ensured that their souls were ready for the journey ahead. They knew that death was simply a crossing, a passage into a new realm of existence. This perspective on death is something that might seem foreign to us today, in a world where death is often seen as the ultimate finality, something to be feared and avoided. But the Egyptians invited us to rethink our relationship with death, not as a fearsome end, but as a necessary and natural part of life's endless cycle. And by embracing death as a part of life, we also learn to live more fully. Knowing that our time here is finite encourages us to focus on what truly matters, to live with intention, to connect with others, and to leave behind a legacy of wisdom, compassion, and love. In this way, the wisdom of the Egyptians encourages us to live each day with a sense of purpose, knowing that our lives, like the Nile's floodwaters, will eventually recede, but the ripples of our actions will continue long after we're gone. So, as we come to the end of our journey through the ancient wisdom of Egypt, what can we take with us? Perhaps it is this: that we too are part of a larger, interconnected universe. Our thoughts, our actions, and our lives have meaning, not only for ourselves, but for the generations that come after us. The teachings of the Egyptians remind us that we are not alone in this journey. From the Ka to the Jewett to the Aku, we are surrounded by forces that guide us, challenge us, and ultimately help us to grow. And by honoring these forces, by embracing the wisdom of balance, purpose, and connection, we unlock a life that is not only more meaningful, but more powerful. The key to unlocking the hidden power of ancient Egyptian wisdom lies not in simply understanding their teachings, but in embodying them. It is a call to live with intention, to cultivate balance, to embrace the mystery, and to honor the cycles of life and death. So, take a moment. Breathe deeply. Reflect on the wisdom of the ages that has flowed down to us through time. And remember that you too have the power to unlock the mysteries of your own soul, to step into alignment with the universe, and to live a life of true purpose. For, as the Egyptians knew so well, the wisdom of the ages is not just something to be learned, it is something to be lived. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of ancient Egyptian wisdom. I invite you to reflect on what you've learned today and see how you can apply these timeless teachings to your own life. Until next time, may you live in balance, with purpose, and with reverence for the mystery that surrounds us all.